All right, hi everybody. It's been a good minute. I've been busy with some work, but with the summer coming up, I should be getting a little bit more free time since I do work as a teacher, so hopefully I get days off. But all that out the way, I want to talk about the awkward state of Genji. I feel like the character is in a bit of a weird spot right now. He's not necessarily over the top. He's not necessarily at the gutter tier. He's in a spot where, yes, he's good, but is this what the Genji players want from his playstyle? That's something I kind of want to discuss. I've been seeing a lot of different viewpoints going around from a lot of different content creators. I've been also speaking with a lot of the Asian content creators that play Genji because there's more of them than there is on the Western side. And I got a chance to speak with a lot of people and discuss with them on their streams on what they think. So I feel like I've gathered up some information about the state of Genji and I want to talk about it. But before that, more than half of you are coming back to watch the videos, but not all of you are subscribed. Hey guys, hit the subscribe button. It's a free way to support the channel. You will stay up to date with all my new videos. And by the way, the stadium content that I've been working upon, especially the only Genji guide you will ever need for stadium, is on the way. It's going to be my longest video yet, my most in-depth Genji guide. So if you want to learn how to become a Genji carry in stadium, please stick around. So for my Genji fans, let's get going with the video. Now let's get started with Genji. Genji is in a bit of an awkward spot. Obviously this season's patch, he got a bit of a change. Now in the actual patch note themselves, he's missing the commentary from the dev team, but Fredo covered it in his video where on their content creator build it was written why this change was made. So Blizzard's current philosophy with Genji was that they actually agree that Genji needs a bit of help. They said that with the mobility creep in the game and some forms of sustain, Genji is facing this problem where he's struggling to secure kills, and they know this. Do you want to know how else there's signs of them acknowledging that Genji needs help, and sometimes it's harder to make him work than necessary? If you actually look at his perks, there's a trend going around on 3 perks that's not there on 1 perk. So 3 out of 4 perks actually have to do with survivability and allowing Genji to sustain himself. So now Genji is one of the only flankers in the game that doesn't necessarily have a way to sustain himself the moment he's taking a fight. For example, Sombra has the translocator. She has that perk that allows her to now instantly start healing herself, but with the hacked health packs, she's able to keep herself sustained really well if she knows how to play around the map that she's playing upon, which I assume all Sombras know how to do nowadays, because yeah, if you're learning Sombra, you know how to play around health packs and run around health packs. Very good way to play the character. Then on the side, we got Tracer. Tracer obviously has the recall and a lot of great perks that keep not only her alive, but a way for her to stay self-sustained and extend that duel that she's got going. But the only character from the flankers that perhaps struggles when it comes to sustaining themselves in a duel, even Venture does a pretty good job for themselves because they generate like the overhealth. The DPS Zoomfist could do that too. Genji doesn't really have anything that gives him a mean to actually stay in that duel. It's either he commits to that duel and gets the kill and then goes from there, or he loses that duel, he gets sent back to spawn and now rinse and repeat. So if you look at the pattern in Genji's perks, 3 of them, like we discovered, I just said in a moment ago, he has survivability. They want to give this guy survivability, and it's why I believe that's the reason they've not actually taken this character the squishier route and allowed him to have the 250 HP, because Genji actually meets the criteria for the 225 HP hero pool, where the idea is that, well, you'll have 225 HP, but you'll be allowed to be lethal, because these are the type of characters that have more damage. Now he doesn't actually have this treatment. He gets to stay in the 250 HP pool, and his damage is, the shuriken damage is the lowest it's ever been. By the way, just a quick reminder, when he had 28 DPS shuriken damage in Overwatch 1, outside of maybe 1 or 2 meta, no, 1 meta with this damage number, Genji was never meta ever again with 28 DPS shurikens. He was considered inconsistent. He faces the same problems that he has now back then. Yada yada yada. You guys know the drill. I covered it in a big video before. My point is that the balance team is acknowledging that, okay, Genji faces 2 problems right now. Number 1, he struggles with staying in the fight, like within that duel that he's trying to take. And number 2, they also acknowledge that, well, this guy needs to survive. That's why his perks, 3 of them, let's dig into it. The first perk he has is that triple jump, which I guess the idea behind this is so that you can dodge cooldowns and kind of like keep yourselves doing some weird jump techs, although it's extremely just not gonna happen in a real game. Like in the moment-to-moment gameplay, the triple jump is just never gonna work out. And honestly, I even think you could give him the triple jump into his base kit if they really want to help him that much with the triple jumping. So triple jumping, the idea is understood behind it, but I hate to say it, it is a useless perk. Why? Because it's competing with possibly the only perk for for him right now that's really holding him together. Otherwise, this character falls apart in the current state of the game, especially with Freya out now, who's completely shifted up the game. I love Freya, but again, Blizzard has approached Freya the wrong way. We spoke about Freya in another video, but let me come back to Genji real quick. The second perk for Genji is way too essential, and that is that Dragon Blade has 30% lifesteal. Genji's hitbox actually expands just a little bit when he pulls out the Dragon Blade because the elbows push outwards to hold the sword, right? So it's not that big of a difference, but it is just something to note. And then number two, now everybody has bigger projectiles, so that doesn't help his case. And then number three, Genji has to come up into the most lethal range possible, and he must commit to that target in order to confirm that kill and then steamroll from there. Now, the problem is that, well, there's a lot of ways to deal with it. Even nowadays with the 30% lifesteal, it's still very easy to take care of him. So they've understood that when this character enters closely into a fight, they need to do something to keep him within the fight, right? So I assume the idea behind the triple jumps was the neutral gameplay, and then the idea behind the Dragon Blade style is to, well, allow Blade to actually do its job, because Blade nowadays, it just gets used to force out important cooldowns or ultimates the higher up you go, which is honestly, I'm on the receiving end of that because I've peaked out at top 500. I still play in scrims with GM and masters of his players and all this type of jazz. And whenever we have to use a blade, we're coordinating it to pull out resources and ultimates rather than actually using it to commit to a fight or get kills. But hey, do you know which characters don't need to do that? Honestly, I can list a lot of them, but that's not the point today. My point is just, it's just kind of sad to see, because not only is he still somewhat of a blade bot, the problem with the Blade bot playstyle as well is he's building it very, very slowly. But again, the idea with the Dragon Blade perk is again to help him stay alive in that fight, keep the blade going, and kind of go from there. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. Deep apologies about that. Moving on to the next one, the third perk that allows him to self-sustain himself is the Deflect perk that allows him to self-heal. That perk was so pathetic they had to buff it, and even though in my opinion it's still a little bit weak, it's better than nothing. There's going to be compositions where you do want the Deflect heal perk, and I have felt it, I'm not going to lie. At least his mages are in a spot where sometimes I'm like, okay, I kind of want the self-sustain, or okay, now I want the bleed. Although an argument can be made that bleed could be a little bit more aggressive. Funnily enough, the character's kit could be saved if they leaned into making the bleed a lot more lethal. Right now, there's so many cases where people can survive even after the bleed does like the most bare minimum tickle damage. It's very, very ignorable. So ignoring the bleed perk, looking at the other three perks, we know that they acknowledge that, okay, this character blows up every time he tries to take a duel, and they probably have like data for this, like death stats and this and that. And my proposal to them is, I don't understand, why do you lean into the survivability of the character? If there's one thing we've been able to learn over time is that this character is inconsistent because he has three different projectiles, whether it's the poke or whether it's the fan, the shurikens, right? And because of that, it's hard to find a good breakpoint where this character can thrive. The old Overwatch balance team agreed that maybe 29 is good. A lot of people agree that 29 is a good spot, but I think in 5v5, sadly, maybe 29 would be a bit too much, and 28, the original value, is still the way to go, at least in my opinion. I still think 28 damage shuriken is perfect for this character, especially in the current day of Overwatch, and it would help him with a lot of the problems that are being faced, especially with the Season 9 health pool increases as well. And also, in my opinion, if I'm being a little bit greedier now, I didn't suggest this back in the day, but I think I'm in a position where I think the character might need it now, is I actually think you can bring back these slower Dragon Blade swings, but with the 120 Dragon Blade slash, because in recency, when I got the chance to play Overwatch Classic again, I realized that 120 Dragon Blade is really not that strong, and with the slower slash speeds, it still allows for time for healing and other cooldowns to happen to where people can survive even that. So I think looking at it from that perspective, there sometimes, you know, sometimes there is a saying, old is gold, and I think in Genji's case, there is a bit of him that's been figured out before, and we can go back to that. Now, I want to also address the hypocrisy with the balance, because the problem with Dragon Blade is, well, you know, Ana and you know, Genji can do the Nano Blade combo. And in in defense purposes, I just want to bring up two characters right now. I'm a big fan of both characters, but I do think there's some hypocrisy going on, because why are we only applying this logic to a character like Genji, where and to be honest, this character needs it. Hanzo needs his one shot. Widowmaker is designed around the one-shot. Sojourn is able to have her one-shot capabilities because of her perks, and Ana can nano boost her and she can just destroy lobbies instantly from a safe range, and she doesn't even have to get into melee range where she's even more vulnerable to cooldowns like Genji is. So come on, Blizzard, what are we doing here? And then on top of all of that, Blizzard released a character called Freya where she is dropping 130 damage on the body. So I think if I'm asking for 120 Dragon Blade, it is not that much to ask for, Blizzard. And I think we're kind of like, you know, leaving some things in the past now where we're moving on from certain philosophies. So with the certain numbers creep in the game, with Hanzo getting the one shot, Widow is still Widow. Technically an argument can be made that Junkrat got his breakpoints back. Sojourn literally has her one shot now. Even without the nano boost, she's still very damn good. Freya can literally two-shot people in the neutral, by the way, in the neutral. Freya's problems have everything to do with the neutral, not the actual abilities, and they've decided to make her abilities clunkier and not the neutral where the damage numbers are the problem, and it's so frustrating to see them do this over and over again. So I digress. My point simply is why is it that when we come down to this one character, the philosophy that's being thrown around onto other characters is not shared over here? Even Cassidy got his range back to make him a lot more viable because the character was just lost in a weird limbo. And then they did the same thing with Hanzo where they tried to take away his one shot and the character just actually started to drop down to a 28% win rate in some cases. He was down to like 35, 36, 28% win rate depending on which rank you looked at, depending on which server you looked at. So it's like these weird experiments across the heroes are not good. Like there's places where the characters just work fine and you don't have to touch it. So in my opinion, the current state of Genji is awkward because it forces him to play like he's a Brawl DPS, but he's not a Brawl DPS. He's always been designed to be that backline assassin that really goes in, that applies good pressure, that can help with the dive, that can follow up on the dive, and back in the day, he can actually initiate the dive. Nowadays, he cannot initiate the dive because if you initiate the dive, you don't have the damage to actually very safely secure a kill, and you're going to get yourself blown up. So you actually just have to play the waiting game that, oh boy, I sure hope my tanks make the space, whether it's 6v6 or 5v5. Oh boy, I sure hope my tanks do something so I can follow up on it and pop off. Otherwise, I'm at the mercy of the fact that, well, hopefully the other person I jump on is an absolute idiot and plays like an idiot so I can just kill him and move on. So that's just kind of my opinion on Genji. It's like I acknowledge what the current team sees with him, where they're like, well, you know, we want to take him the sustain route because we feel like he just dies when he tries to do anything. And that's why they gave him 3 perks designed around keeping him alive. Whether it's the jump, whether it's the heal, whether it's the life steal. They're all designed around this one thing, is that this character is going to die. What can we do to help him so he doesn't need a support pocket? But here's the problem. This character didn't need a support pocket 24/7, whether it's the Ana with the Nanoblade, whether it's the Mercy running around with them, whether it's the Zen Orb, whether it's, in some cases nowadays, even a Kiriko flanking with him, a Juno sniping him across the map, Life Weaver tossing him like orbs or brick packs or whatever you want to say. You don't need to do that for the character if the character can be allowed to have lethality. In fact, you know, like, I'm gonna play like some clip or something in front on the screen right now, and you'll see that this little breakpoint over here, I've landed the entire combo. But because now this guy can live, and I'm stuck in a position where I have to reload or I have to escape because I'm in a position where I'm gonna get pressured, you know, I don't get my dash reset. But on previous versions of Genji, if I had 28 damage, you know, on the Shuriken, this little health bar would have gone away and I would have been able to secure the kill. I would have gotten my dash where I could have either committed further or I could have gotten out. Basically, what I'm saying is the 27 damage doesn't help his case. Not to mention their argument for what they wanted to do with his kit at the moment was that they want to help him secure kills. So if the projectile can connect faster, people can't run away from him. Well, you don't need the projectile to connect faster if the initial burst damage, but that he gets the drop on someone is good enough to where he can secure the kill before the target can run away, if you guys understand where I'm coming from, right? So that is my personal opinion on the character. Is I think I at least appreciate that they acknowledge that the character needs help, or they don't like that the character's in this weird limbo right now where for some reason, like, even though he gets played in the meta, as always, he's a complement to the meta, he's not the reason behind the meta. And yes, the character is still good enough to where he can have moments he can pop off and where he cannot. I'm not denying that, but I think there needs to be some respect as to, well, why did a lot of these Genji players fall in love with the character? And a lot of that had to do with this neutral gameplay. I still believe the right way forward with this character character is to shave his HP down to 225. Hell, let us even get the 200 HP. If that means we can have 28 or 29 damage shurikens with 120 blade again with the slower swing speed, I'm down for that. But I think right now trying to make him like this weird brawl character just doesn't work. Not to mention they cut the ammo again. So the entire point of brawl characters is that they have good sustained DPS. But then the problem with Genji now is they took away the sustained DPS because he's now become a reload bot. So they can't decide. It's so weird to see. Again, I'm not saying Genji's in a bad spot. I'm not saying he's in an overly good spot. I think he's still A tier. I've put him in A tier for the past 4 seasons now. So I do agree that he is strong. But I think when you play him, when I've played him for the past like almost 10 years now, and what I loved about the character, that gameplay style is not there. And recently when I posted clips of from my old days when I was playing in Overwatch 1 and I was watching what I was able to do with the shurikens, with the combos, I miss that play style. I miss having that agency. I don't have that with the character anymore. And I kind of wish that people would respect that about the people that play Genji, is that there is this part of a character that we've kind of lost. And I feel like the only communities that can kind of understand where us Genji players can sometimes come from is the Junkrat and Sombra communities, because they also kind of got lost in this weird shuffle where it's like, well, their characters are not bad per se, but they're just so lost in this like current like over-evolving Overwatch that we are with today, right? So that's just my thoughts on the current state of Genji. I want to hear what you guys think. With that being said, I will see you in the next video, which hopefully we will start leaning into the stadium content, or I think there's like one more thing I want to discuss about Freya, because I'm a big fan of Freya, but I still think Blizzard missed the mark with her. So with that being said, see you in the Freya video tomorrow. Bye.